Hi there, and welcome to Ian's Engage channel. I'm Ian. In my previous two videos, I alluded that Shelfington would be growing in size, and it would be happening sooner rather than later. Well, in reality, it's going to happen before I've secured a single piece of track to the Shelfington baseboard. The whole point of creating a shelf layout was so that I could practice my model making skills and learn new techniques. The problem is that I also didn't want to throw Shelfington away once I'd finished it, and so had decided to incorporate it into a bigger layout, which I talked about a few videos ago. To do this, Shelfington has grown in size, with track being put in place to serve the operation of the future layout, leaving very little baseboard to incorporate the scenic details I wanted to practice on. This has led me into making the momentous decision that I'm going to go as big as I can as soon as possible, and use up about as much room in the train room as I can sensibly get away with. So let's see how much space I've actually got to play with.
Okay, so here we are in my office, which is also my train room, and we're looking at the Shelfington baseboard. However, as you know, I want to go bigger. So, where can I go? I can't go that way because I have cupboard doors in the way. However, I can go that way, where there's a filing cabinet and my robot vacuum cleaner, which can both be moved, and will probably both end up below the layout. Originally, I thought I could also go that way, but I really do need access to the windows, and it would only allow me to have an extra foot coming into the room. I can't go any further this way, as that's where my computer desk is. So basically, I'm stuck with this here, where it's actually 6 foot long, and I can get away with about 2'6" wide before I put my chair to give me access so I could sit at the desk and not bump into the layout constantly. So 6 foot by 2'6" isn't bad. I can then come back, come back this way and extend forward, and I've calculated that I can do something like 3 foot by 1 foot or 3 foot by 1'6" to come out to bring the whole thing to 10 foot long at the back and maybe 9 foot long at the front, all by 2'6" wide. So that should give me ample space to create the layout that I've got in mind. I can then use my little table as is with my computer to control the whole thing, which can be stored away underneath the baseboards for convenience. So let's go and have a look at what I've got in mind.
Okay, so I've made a few small modifications to the Shelfington plan since the last time you saw it, mostly to facilitate moving from the Shelfington baseboard onto the new 6 foot by 2'6" baseboard. Previously, I discussed having Shelfington sit above a bigger baseboard, but I've scrapped that idea, as I just don't have enough space to keep the inclines as shallow as I'd like them to be. So after a bit more head scratching and track planning, I came up with this. Scrapping the inclines and keeping the baseboards at the same level means that I can now have continuous running around double loops, which was one of my initial must-have features. I actually started with 5 must-have features should I ever build a bigger layout, and these were: ingle-nook challenge sidings for operational interest, double loop for 2-directional continuous running, no stations on either loop but rather situated in sidings, a hidden section where a train can wait in a passing loop and another train can emerge to take its place, and finally a fiddle yard. Now, the current plan has the first 3 of these. In fact, it has 2 areas where an ingle-nook challenge could be performed. The double loop is there, as long as I can get hold of the appropriate crossing to switch over the down line from Shelfington. There is space for 3 stations, none of which are on a main loop. I'm going to work really hard to try and incorporate my fourth must-have, as I like the idea of one train going into a tunnel and another one emerging. I actually remember seeing this as a kid on a layout in Scarborough and being amazed. I was only about 7 or 8 at the time, but the memory has stuck with me. Now, the problem with the fill yard is it will take up too much space. I've already got a tendency to want to fill any spare bit of baseboard with track at the expense of scenery, so I'll have to do without a fill yard until I work out where I can incorporate a helix to get below the main level. But that's just a dream at the moment. Back in the real world, as it stands, I've got space for stations, a goods yard, and a quarry, a farm, plenty of space to model a waterway, hills, embankments, cuttings, tunnels, and at least a couple of bridges. I'm still a long way off being able to model any of these things though, as more baseboards now need to be constructed. However, instead of building the new 6-foot baseboard from scratch, I decided to order one from Model Railway Solutions. I'd actually already built one of their smaller 3-foot baseboards and had been very impressed with it, so getting a bigger one from them was a bit of a no-brainer. I'll be using the Shelfington baseboard, the smaller 3-foot baseboard and the new 6-foot baseboard as the basis for my new plan, and should have an abundance of space to try out as many scenic detailing techniques as I can imagine. If I mess up as I'm going along, then, well, I'll just have to deal with it. After all, it's all a learning experience, isn't it? Before I can mess up any of the scenics though, I've got to put the new baseboards together. I've got to cut and add legs and braces to the 6 and 3-foot baseboards, then I've got to try and work out how to join all 3 of them together and ensure they're all level. Sounds simple. Okay, so that's about it for this update. If you've got any hints, tips, useful tools or techniques to pass on to a beginner in N-Gauge modelling, or if you simply want to say hello, then please do so in the comments section. Anything and everything you've got to say will be greatly appreciated. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching, and hopefully I'll have another update very soon. Bye.